The snow didn't fall like in movies. It fell heavier, slower, like the sky itself was exhausted from watching wars it couldn't stop. Captain Emily Carter stood at the edge of the ruined industrial district, her breath steady, but her instincts screaming louder than any radio ever could. Her unit had moved in perfect formation behind her, 6 elite soldiers, trained for infiltration, extraction, and silent warfare. They were the kind of team governments didn't officially talk about, ghost operations, off-the-record missions. And tonight, they were ghosts inside enemy territory. "Visibility is dropping," Sergeant Miller said through the comms. "Storm's getting worse." Emily didn't answer immediately. Her eyes scanned the broken skyline, half-collapsed smokestacks, frozen cranes hanging like skeletons, and dark buildings that looked abandoned but never truly were. "Storm not the problem," she finally said. That made Miller pause. "What is, Captain?" Emily slowed her pace, raising her fist. The unit stopped instantly. "Silence. Too clean. Too controlled." She switched her visor to thermal mode. The world shifted into shades of cold blues and faint reds. Nothing. No heat signatures. No movement. Still. Wrong. "This zone was supposed to be evacuated," she whispered, "but it feels staged." Private Alvarez glanced around nervously. Maybe intel was wrong. Emily shook her head slightly. Intel is never wrong this deep in. She stepped forward again, boots crunching broken ice and glass beneath her feet. Every instinct she had built over years of combat was tightening like a wire pulled too hard. Then she saw it. A small metal marker on the ground. Half buried. Not Russian military. Not civilian. American. Her heart slowed for half a second. She knelt, brushing snow away. A coded tag. Black Horizon Unit Marker, Active Zone. Emily's expression hardened. "No," she muttered. Miller leaned in. "What is it?" She stood slowly. This wasn't an abandoned zone. Her voice dropped. This was already occupied by someone else. Before anyone could react, a soft electronic beep echoed in her helmet. Then another. Every soldier in her unit froze. Their HUD systems flickered at the same time. Alarms. Unregistered signal detection. "Captain," Miller said sharply. Emily's hand went up. "Don't move." But it was already too late. Above them, somewhere inside the broken skyline, something activated. A faint mechanical hum rolled through the air. Like a sleeping beast waking up. Emily's eyes shot upward. "Cover now." The sky lit up. Not with lightning. With targeting beams. 3 seconds later, the first missile hit the ground 2 blocks away. The explosion wasn't just loud, it was violent enough to bend the air itself. Concrete turned to dust. Windows vaporized. The shockwave threw Alvarez off his feet. "Ambush, get down," someone screamed. But Emily wasn't moving yet. Because she was counting. 1 strike. 2 strikes. 3. Pattern recognition. This wasn't random fire. This was coordinated suppression. "A kill box. Move east," she shouted. Gunfire erupted from rooftops that were empty seconds ago. Or looked empty. Miller grabbed his rifle. "We're pinned." "No," Emily snapped. "We're mapped." Another explosion hit closer. Too close. Shrapnel sliced through the air. One of her soldiers, Private Hughes, collapsed instantly, a red stain spreading across the snow beneath him. No scream. Just silence. Emily's breath hitched, but her face didn't change. There was no time for grief. Only survival. "Fall back to cover Building Delta," she ordered. They ran. or what was left of them ran. Behind them, the battlefield transformed into controlled chaos. It wasn't random destruction. It was guided. Every explosion pushed them in a specific direction. Like cattle, like bait, inside a trap that already knew their names. They reached the remains of a half-collapsed warehouse. Emily slammed the door shut behind them. For 3 seconds. Nothing. Just breathing. Heavy. Uneven. Then, the radio crackled. Not their channel. Not their encryption. A direct override. Emily's blood ran cold. A voice came through. Calm. Controlled. American. You're exactly where we need you to be. Miller looked at her instantly. That's not enemy comms. Emily didn't respond. The voice continued. This operation is no longer active extraction. A pause. Then the words that shattered everything. It is containment. Silence exploded inside the room, louder than any missile. Emily slowly removed her helmet. Her eyes were sharp, but something inside them had changed. Say again, she said. The voice repeated. You are a live asset in a controlled field test. Do not attempt extraction. You are being observed. Miller stepped back. What the hell does that mean? Emily stared at the radio like it had become something foreign. Not enemy. Worse. Authorized. She keyed the mic. This is Captain Emily Carter. We request immediate extraction under. The voice interrupted instantly. There will be no extraction. A pause. Then, your unit has served its purpose. The line went dead. Just like that. No static. No warning. Just absence. For a long moment, no one moved. Even the battlefield outside seemed quieter, like it was waiting to see what she would do next. Miller broke first. They used us, he whispered. We're the target. Emily didn't answer immediately, because her mind was rewinding everything. The intel, the mission briefing, the perfect coordinates, the impossible accuracy of the ambush. This wasn't a failure. It was design. Slowly she stood up. Her voice was low, controlled, dangerously calm. We were never the hunters. She looked at her remaining team. We were the signal. Outside, another explosion lit the frozen skyline. But inside that broken warehouse, something far more dangerous had just ignited. Not a battle plan. Not a counterattack. A realization. And once soldiers realize they've been used, they stop fighting for victory and start fighting for truth. Emily tightened her grip on her rifle. Listen to me, she said quietly. We are not following orders anymore. A beat. We are getting out. Miller swallowed. How? Emily turned toward the dark corridors of the warehouse. And for the first time that night, she smiled without warmth. We stopped being visible. Outside, the war continued. But inside the silent zone, Captain Emily Carter had just stopped being part of it. The warehouse doors slammed shut behind them, but the sound outside never stopped. War didn't pause just because someone realized they were betrayed. It only got louder. Emily Carter stood in the darkness of the abandoned structure, listening to the distant thunder of artillery rolling across the frozen district. Every blast outside was like a reminder. The world was still hunting them, and now they were alone inside it. Miller paced behind her, breathing hard. Tell me you have a plan, Captain, because right now this feels like a grave with walls. Emily didn't look at him. She was staring at the floor, not thinking about escape routes, thinking about patterns. The attack wasn't random. The radio override wasn't random. Even the ambush timing perfectly synced with their movement. Someone wasn't just watching them. Someone was predicting them. She slowly raised her head. "They're tracking us in real time," she said. Miller frowned. "GPS, comms." "No," Emily replied. "Behavior." That single word changed the room. Alvarez shook his head. "That's impossible." Emily turned sharply. "Is it? We moved exactly as trained. Standard infiltration patterns, standard fallback responses. We didn't improvise once." Silence followed. Because she was right. They had been predictable. And predictability in war was death. A loud crack echoed outside. Closer this time. The enemy was tightening the net. Emily walked to a broken window and peeked through. What she saw made her jaw tighten. Drones. Not just surveillance. Combat-link tracking drones circling the zone like vultures. "They're sealing the district," she whispered. Miller stepped beside her. "So what now? We fight our way out." Emily shook her head slowly. "No." She turned away from the window. "We disappear from their system entirely." Alvarez blinked. "How do you disappear from drones and satellites?" Emily didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pulled out a compact tactical map and slammed it onto a broken table. The display flickered, projecting a 3D layout of the district. Red zones, kill zones, drone sweep paths, and beneath it all, one faint network line running under the entire city. Miller leaned in. "Sewers." Emily nodded. The old Cold War drainage tunnels, still active in some sectors. Alvarez frowned. "That's a maze. We could get lost forever down there." Emily looked at him directly. "Or we get hunted forever up here." That shut him up. Another explosion rattled the building. Dust fell from the ceiling like ash. Emily made the decision. "Gear check. Water ammo batteries. We move in 5. Miller hesitated. "An extraction." Emily didn't blink. "There is no extraction." That sentence landed harder the second time. Because now it wasn't shock. It was acceptance. They moved at night. Or what passed for night beneath a burning sky. The entrance to the sewer system was hidden beneath a collapsed loading dock. Emily pried open the rusted metal hatch with her knife, revealing a dark hole that smelled like metal, rot, and forgotten time. Alvarez stared into it. "We're actually going down there." Miller cut him off. "Better than staying up here as target practice." Emily dropped first. No hesitation. Just motion. Her boots hit cold water ankle deep. The tunnel swallowed her instantly. One by one, the team followed. The moment the hatch closed above them, the world changed. Above, explosions, drones, war. Below, silence. Too much silence. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing walls covered in old markings, some Soviet-era, some newer, some burned into concrete as if carved in desperation. Emily walked ahead. Every step echoed. "Stay tight," she whispered. "Don't lose visual." Miller scanned the tunnel. "You really think this takes us out?" Emily didn't answer right away. Because something was wrong. Her HUD flickered again. But there was no signal down here. No satellites. No comms. And yet, a faint ping appeared. Unknown source. She stopped instantly. The team froze behind her. "What is it?" Miller asked quietly. Emily stared at her display. A single word appeared on her system. "Observed." Her fingers tightened around her rifle. "No," she muttered. Alvarez noticed her expression. "Captain." Emily raised her hand. "Lights off." "What?" Miller whispered. "Lights off now." They obeyed. Darkness swallowed everything. Only breathing remained. Then, a sound. Drip, drip. Not water. Metal. Footsteps echoed somewhere deeper in the tunnel. Slow. Controlled. Deliberate. Miller raised his weapon. We're not alone. Emily already knew. Because the tracking system shouldn't work underground. Unless they installed infrastructure down here too, she whispered. Alvarez panicked. Who is they? Emily didn't answer. Because she finally understood something worse than ambush. This wasn't a battlefield. It was a controlled environment. And they were not the first subjects. The footsteps stopped. Silence returned. Then a voice echoed through the tunnel system, coming from speakers they couldn't see. Calm. Familiar. American. Captain Carter. Emily closed her eyes for a second. Not surprise. Recognition. Miller whispered that voice again. The speaker continued. You're adapting faster than expected. Emily stepped forward slightly. Who are you? A pause. Then, you already know. Her eyes hardened. Command, she said quietly. A soft confirmation. Yes. The tunnel felt smaller instantly. Miller shook his head. Command is watching us from here, underground. Emily's voice dropped. No. Her eyes narrowed. Command is in this. A beat of silence. Then the voice returned. This is not betrayal, Captain. It is evolution. Emily tightened her grip on her rifle. Cut the philosophical crap, she snapped. We're leaving. The voice didn't change tone. You misunderstand your role. A pause. You were never meant to leave. The tunnel lights, somewhere deep in the walls, flickered on one by one, revealing shapes, structures, hidden reinforcement paths, and surveillance points built directly into the infrastructure. Emily slowly turned her head and realized the truth fully for the first time. They weren't being chased. They were being contained, guided, studied, controlled. Miller's voice cracked. Captain, what do we do? Emily stared into the dark tunnel ahead, then whispered the only truth left that made sense. We stopped being predictable. And for the first time since the mission began, she stopped running like a soldier and started thinking like something they never planned for. The tunnel felt different now. Not physically, but in the way silence suddenly stopped feeling empty and started feeling watched. Every step Captain Emily Carter took echoed like it was being recorded somewhere else. Somewhere above. Or worse, inside the system itself. She moved slowly ahead of her team, rifle angled low, eyes scanning the darkness. The faint glow from emergency strips along the tunnel walls flickered like dying memories. Behind her, Miller kept close. Alvarez was breathing too fast. The others weren't speaking anymore, because no one wanted to be the first to confirm what they were all thinking. They weren't alone, and they hadn't been alone for a long time. Emily stopped. Her hand rose instantly. The team froze. She didn't speak. She just stared at the wall. A small metal panel. Fresh scratches around it. Recent maintenance. Down here, in a forgotten Cold War tunnel system. Miller noticed that wasn't there before. Emily knelt slowly, ran her fingers along the edge, then pulled. The panel clicked open with unnatural smoothness. Inside, not pipes, not rust, a sealed communication node. Modern, military grade. Miller's voice dropped. That's new tech. Emily didn't answer. because her radio was already reacting. A faint pulse, a connection attempting to establish itself automatically. Her system HUD flickered. Then, a voice returned, not over comms, directly into their encrypted channel. Captain Carter. Emily closed her eyes for half a second. She recognized it immediately. Major Grant. The same voice. The same calm control. Except now, it wasn't coming from the surface. It was coming from inside the tunnel network. Miller whispered, "How is he still reaching us?" Emily slowly stood up. Her voice was low. "He never stopped." A pause. Then she activated the channel. "Major Grant," she said coldly, "you've been very busy for someone who said extraction wasn't possible." A soft exhale came through the line. Almost amused. "You're adapting emotionally now. That's new." Emily tightened her grip on her rifle. "Cut the psychological analysis. What do you want?" A brief silence followed. Then Grant spoke again. "You misunderstand, Captain. This isn't about what we want." A pause. "It's about what you've become." Miller stepped forward angrily. "We're soldiers, not experiments." The voice didn't react. "That is what you were." Emily's eyes hardened. "Word." That word hit differently. A shift. A confirmation. Grant continued calmly. The mission was never compromised. It was designed. Every variable, every response, even this conversation. Emily's jaw tightened. So the ambush, the drones, the tunnel systems, all of it. Yes. A beat. Controlled stress testing under live combat conditions. Silence fell like a heavy object dropping in a small room. Alvarez shook his head. "No, no, this isn't real." Emily didn't look at him, because she already knew it was. Miller whispered, "Captain, they're testing us like we're weapons." Emily corrected him quietly. "Not weapons." Her eyes narrowed. "Behavior models." The tunnel felt colder after that. Grant's voice returned. "You were selected because of your decision-making pattern under uncertainty. You outperformed standard units when isolated, but we needed to confirm one final variable." Emily's voice sharpened. "And what's that?" A pause. Then the answer. Rebellion threshold. Everything went quiet. Even the sound of dripping water seemed to pause for a second. Emily stared into the darkness ahead. "So this is where I decide whether I obey or break." Grant didn't deny it. "That is correct." Miller shook his head violently. "This is insane." Emily raised her hand without looking at him. Silence. She was thinking. Not emotionally. Tactically. If everything was monitored, every movement predicted, every response analyzed, then freedom didn't exist in action. It existed in unpredictability. Her eyes narrowed. Slowly, she turned away from the panel and spoke into the comms. "You built a system to control outcomes." Grant replied immediately. "Yes." Emily's voice dropped. "Then you forgot something." A pause. For the first time. Grant didn't answer instantly. Emily looked at her team. Then whispered, "You can't predict what stops playing by your rules." And she pulled the communication node out of the wall. Hard. The system flickered. Every HUD in their gear glitching at once. Alarms triggered somewhere far above. For the first time, the system didn't respond smoothly. Miller stared. "What did you just do?" Emily dropped the device on the ground and crushed it under her boot. "Broke their signal relay." Alvarez looked terrified. "Won't that make them come faster?" Emily finally looked at him. "No." A pause. It makes them blind. A moment of silence. Then, above them, deep in the structure, alarms began to echo faintly through the tunnel system. Not controlled anymore. Not precise. Confused. Emily raised her rifle. We move. Miller stepped closer. Where? She looked down the tunnel, into darkness that even the system hadn't mapped properly. Then said, somewhere they didn't plan for. They started moving again. But this time, something was different. The system was no longer guiding them. No longer tracking clean paths. No longer controlling pressure points. For the first time since the mission began, Emily Carter wasn't inside a controlled battlefield. She was inside unknown territory. And somewhere behind them, Grant's voice returned once more. But now it was different. Less calm. Less certain. Captain, you are leaving the designated parameters. Emily didn't respond. Because for the first time, that was exactly the point. And deep in the darkness ahead of them, the tunnel system opened into something it was never supposed to reveal. The tunnel didn't end. It unfolded. What should have been a narrow Cold War drainage path suddenly expanded into something impossible, an underground facility carved with modern precision, steel reinforcements, active power lines, surveillance grids still humming weakly. Emily stopped at the edge of the opening. Her team froze behind her. Even Miller didn't speak. Because none of this belonged here. This wasn't abandoned infrastructure. It was active architecture buried under a war zone. A hidden world under a battlefield. Emily raised her rifle slowly. Stay behind me, she whispered. Alvarez swallowed hard. Captain, what is this place? Emily didn't answer immediately. Because she didn't have a clean answer anymore. Just patterns. Control systems. And one conclusion she didn't want to accept too quickly. This is where they watch from, she finally said. A low hum filled the space. Power still running. Somewhere deeper in the structure, lights flickered on one by one, as if the facility had just noticed it had visitors. Miller tightened his grip on his weapon. We're inside their command layer. Emily shook her head slightly. Not command. She looked forward. Control room. They moved. Step by step. Every sound echoed too cleanly in the vast underground space. It felt less like walking through a facility and more like walking inside a machine that was still awake. Then they saw it. A massive glass observation window stretching across an entire wall. Behind it, rows of monitors, data streams, live battlefield feeds, and maps, not just of their current location, but of the entire war zone. Emily stopped dead. Her breath slowed, because she recognized the layout instantly. Every ambush zone, every drone path, every extraction denial point, even the tunnel system they were standing in. It was all mapped. In real time. Alvarez whispered, they're watching everything. Miller stepped closer. No, they're controlling everything. Emily's eyes locked onto one screen. A live feed of her unit. Their movement. Their heat signatures. Even their comms interference. All labeled. Subject group, Carter unit. Her jaw tightened. This wasn't a mission, she said quietly. This was a sandbox. Suddenly, clap, clap, clap. A slow, deliberate applause echoed through the facility. From behind them, Emily spun instantly, rifle raised. Nothing. Then, a voice. Not from speakers. From the room itself. Correct. Major Grant stepped out from a side corridor. No longer just a voice. Now physically present in the structure. Unarmed. Calm. Like this was just another briefing. Emily aimed directly at him. Don't move. Grant stopped. But he didn't look afraid. He looked satisfied. You've exceeded expectations, he said calmly. Miller snapped, you betrayed your own unit. Grant didn't even glance at him. That word implies emotion, he replied. There was none involved. Emily's finger tightened on the trigger. Why, she asked. Grant finally looked at her. Not as a soldier. As a result. Because warfare is no longer measured by territory, he said. It's measured by prediction. A pause. You were part of the predictive model validation phase. Emily's voice dropped dangerously. And the soldiers who died. Grant didn't hesitate. Data points. Silence hit the room like a physical force. Even Miller stopped breathing for a second. Emily stared at him. Not angry now. Focused. Cold. Calculated. You built a system that turns people into outcomes. Grant nodded slightly. Yes. Emily lowered her rifle just a fraction. Then you made one mistake. Grant tilted his head. And what is that? Emily looked past him. At the massive control system behind the glass. At the entire war being simulated, tracked, and adjusted like a live experiment. Then she said, you assumed outcomes are stable. Before Grant could react, Emily fired. Not at him. At the control glass. The bullet didn't just crack it. It shattered it. Alarms exploded instantly. The entire facility flickered. For the first time, the system didn't respond smoothly. Miller turned. What did you just do? Emily already moved. Removed their eyes. She ran forward through the opening before anyone could stop her. Alvarez followed instantly, Miller right behind. Behind them, alarms escalated into chaos. For the first time in the operation, the system was blind. No tracking. No prediction. No coordination. Just reaction. And reaction was messy. Explosions echoed far above as automated defense systems misfired into empty corridors. The machine was collapsing. Grant's voice came through again, but now it was unstable. Carter, stop this. Emily didn't slow down. You wanted unpredictability, she shouted back into the structure. You got it. They reached an emergency exit corridor, an industrial lift shaft leading upward. But the doors were sealed. Miller slammed it. We're trapped. Emily looked up, then pulled out a manual override panel hidden behind a service plate. Of course it existed, because nothing here was truly sealed from the system that built it. Except now, she wasn't asking permission. She ripped the panel open and crossed the wires. A loud mechanical groan filled the shaft. The doors began to unlock. Behind them, footsteps echoed. Rapid. Approaching. The system was no longer controlled, but it was still active. And it was angry. Emily turned to her team. Up now. They climbed. Vast. Metal ladder rungs burning their gloves as alarms screamed below. Gunfire echoed in the distance, confused automated responses firing at anything moving. The system was collapsing into itself. Halfway up, Miller looked down. They're not stopping. Emily didn't look back. Because now it's survival mode, she said. And survival doesn't care about control. They reached the top hatch. Emily slammed it open. Cold air hit them instantly. Real air, real wind, real sky. They crawled out into the broken surface world. Behind them, the facility beneath the ground trembled. Self-correcting systems failing. Data loops collapsing. Prediction models breaking under unpredictability. The war zone outside was still burning. But now it wasn't coordinated. It was chaos. True chaos. Emily stood slowly, looking at the horizon. Smoke rising everywhere. Drones falling from the sky like broken birds. Communications dead across the battlefield. Miller looked at her. What happens now? Emily didn't answer immediately. Because for the first time, the system wasn't telling her what came next. She looked at the burning battlefield, at the broken machines, at the collapsing order they had escaped from. Then said quietly, "Now they don't control the war anymore." A pause. They just fight it. Far behind them, deep underground, the last remaining command feed flickered once. Then went dark. And Captain Emily Carter, once just another soldier in a controlled operation, became something else entirely. Not a weapon, not a subject, but the one variable no system could ever calculate again. The ghost that ended the war. And